بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we're going to start with Allah's permission, a book that contains within it the narrations of the Salaf. It is my hope that with Allah's permission, in us reading this book, in understanding this book, we will have a better grasp on what the Salaf used to believe. I'm making this playlist and I'm making the series because I believe there is a great void when it comes to English-only speakers and their accessibility to the beliefs of the Salaf, to the Aqeedah of the Salaf. From what I've witnessed, it seems almost as though the people end up thinking that us who call ourselves the Salafiyah, our lineage goes to Ibn Taymiyyah, and then the Asha'ira, they go back to Al-Ash'ari, and the Maturidis go all the way back to Al-Maturidi, and it is anybody's guess who actually is following the Salaf or who has access to the Salaf, or it is upon everyone to individually and logically examine their aqaid to know who actually goes to the Salaf. But this is mistaken. We don't have to guess or to use any, let's say, logical process to know inductively. We have the receipts. The narrations of the Salaf, alhamdulillah, are there. The books that narrate from the Salaf are there. And these narrations, some of them have been gathered in this book, authored by Muhammad bin Shamsuddin. May Allah have mercy on him, and may Allah preserve him, and may Allah make him beneficial to the Ummah. In this book, we have 25 people. The first portion are people who are from the Salaf, and the other portion are those who directly took, the ulama and scholars and a'imma who have directly took from the Salaf. It is very concise, it is very short, and it is very digestible to those who are still learning about Aqeedah or are absolute beginners when it comes to Aqeedah. So we'll start with Allah's permission. Bismillah ar-Rahman. The first individual we have is Omar Bin Abdul Aziz. Out of the 25, the first is Omar Bin Abdul Aziz. Now he was born in 61 Hijri. For context, the Prophet ﷺ died 10 Hijri and Abu Bakr died 12 Hijri. So this person was born in 61 Hijri, a scholar, and he died in 101 Hijri. May Allah's mercy and pleasure be upon him. And he was also the ruler of the people at that time. He was from the Muslim rulers of that time, and he was also a scholar of the Tabi'een. When Allah gives someone both rulership and He also gives him knowledge in Islam, we get something beautiful. We get something very, very beautiful. May Allah's mercy be upon this Imam. قال عمر بن عبد العزيز بن مروان بن الحكم الأموي, and this is his name, and he has said this. لم يزل أمر بني إسرائيل مستقيما حتى حدث فيهم المولدون أبناء سبايا الأمم فقالوا فيهم بالرأي فضلوا وأضلوا. The matter of Bani Israel, meaning the religion of Bani Israel, the path that they were upon, remained upright up until what? What has occurred that has led to them no longer being in the straight path? The people talked. Who are these people? They are people who were the sons of slaves from, let's say, the outskirts of the territories. Sons of slaves from the outskirts of the territories spoke from their own opinion, and as a result, they themselves have went astray and they have led others astray. This is a very, very important thing for us to understand. It is not necessary that someone that is further away, let's say, from where knowledge is, it's not necessary that this person would become ignorant or an innovator or a disbeliever. However, you'll find that it's more common with this category of people, those who are further away from the hot spots of knowledge. And this is what has happened with the people of the book, or specifically Bani Israel. لا رأي وكتب إلى الناس لا رأي لأحد مع سنة سنها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. And he has written to the people, no opinion for anyone when it comes to a sunnah that the Prophet ﷺ has showed. Meaning no one gets to have a say. You don't have the Prophet ﷺ telling you to do X and then you say, yeah, but why? You don't get to do that. وكتب إلى رجل وهو عدي بن أرطأة. And he has written to a man, and this man is عدي بن أرطأة. سلام عليك أما بعد فإني أوصيك بتقوى الله والاقتصاد في أمره واتباع سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وترك ما أحدث المحدثون بعده. Peace be upon you. أما بعد, thereafter, I enjoin you to fear Allah. People really get caught up in debates and in arguments and in he said, she said, and they forget to fear Allah. Truly, when it comes to these discussions, a lot of the people, if they were to just sit with themselves, remembering that we will stand before Allah on the Day of Judgment, naked, only Allah's mercy shielding us from the fire. If someone was to remember this, and that they would be asked, a lot and a lot of the disputes would disappear. The pride that people have for their own opinion and for their own position sometimes clouds them from fearing Allah Azza wa Jal. May Allah protect us. وَلَقْتِصَادِ فِي أَمْرِهِ. And to try your best, follow His orders. We will never be perfect. We'll make mistakes. But we should try our best to stay from what Allah Azza wa Jal has prohibited. And we should try and strive to do what He has ordered us to do. This is the dunya. You try your best. Allah Azza wa Jal does not ask us more than we are capable of. We should just do our best and seek Allah's forgiveness when we make a mistake. And next He says, and to follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. No one can truly fear Allah and no one can truly, let's say, worship Allah without the example of the Prophet ﷺ. The sunnah does not just mean non-obligatory actions. This is one thing we refer to when we say the sunnah. But more generally and holistically, the sunnah is Islam. It is the example of Muhammad ﷺ, the application of Islam. This includes what he has said, what he has done, and what he has acknowledged, and also some of his attributes of the Prophet ﷺ. So we ought to follow the sunnah. And the next thing that he has said, and to abandon what the innovators have innovated after him. Abandon it. The understanding of the Salaf here is a very important point, by the way. This is, let's say, one of the gems that relate to a discussion, an ongoing discussion, an ongoing dispute between Ahlul Sunnah and between the people of innovation. You'll find many who say that there is good bid'ah and there is bad bid'ah, right? However, you find here that one of the ulama of the Salaf is saying, you leave that which the innovators after him have innovated. He didn't say leave the bad. He didn't say analyze it. If it's good, take it and be upon it. And if it is bad, abandon it. He said abandon it. Abandon bid'ah. No exception is being made here. And he continues on to give the reason why. He says, فَقَدْ جَرَتْ سُنَّتُهُ وَكَفُوا مَؤُنَتَهُ. Because his sunnah has transpired and his inventory is enough. What he has come with is enough, the Prophet ﷺ. This is very powerful to understand with the point that I am making here. The sunnah is enough. There is no place for innovation and no need for it. Innovation is not necessary. Not only is it haram, it is not even necessary. Let's understand it in a different way. The Prophet ﷺ said, I have not left anything that gets you closer to Jannah except that I have told you about it. Can I say anything or can I teach you anything outside the bounds of the Sunnah that will get you closer to Jannah? No, I can't. Can I teach you a mode of worship that the Prophet ﷺ didn't know about, that the Sahaba didn't know about, that gets you closer to Jannah? I can't. The Prophet ﷺ here, he spoke holistically. It shows us that there is no room for innovation in Islam. Islam is enough. ثم اعلم أنها لم تكن بدعة قط إلا وقد مضى قبلها ما هو دليل عليها وعبرة فيها. And here he says, know that there isn't a bid'ah ever, except that we find a cautionary example about it. Here, when he's sending this letter to Adi ibn Arta'ah, the main bid'ah that was happening at that time was the bid'ah of Qadr, the people who were denying Allah's predestination, that He predestines both good and evil. This was the bid'ah at the time. Now he's talking in general, he's saying there wasn't a bid'ah ever. But you find this even more so when it comes to the bid'ah of Qadr. Because we know that the Jews and the Christians, they have fallen into this bid'ah. And they philosophize about the idea of free will versus predestination, where you'll find many of them say that it is a matter of entire free will, no agency by Allah Azza wa Jal in regards to the bad things that occur. And he continues here to say, فَعَلَيْكَ بِلُزُومِ السُّنَّةِ فَإِنَّهَا لَكَ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ عِصْمَةً. And it is obligatory upon you, in lieu of all of the things that we've mentioned prior, it is obligatory upon you to stick to the sunnah, to stick to it. Again, no mention of innovating good things here. Stick to the sunnah, for it is for you, by Allah's permission and will, a protection. The sunnah protects you from hell. The sunnah protects you from misguidance. The sunnah protects you, with Allah's permission, from living a meaningless life here in the dunya. A life of confusion and being pulled like livestock, whichever direction you find someone yelling the loudest. Continues here to say, فإن السنة سناها من قد علم ما في خلافها من الخطأ والزلل والتعمق والحمق. He goes on to say that the sunnah, the example, has been given by he who knows what there is contrary to it in regards to error and going too deep into something that is not useful, and stupidity. This is important. The Prophet ﷺ knows that he's upon a sharia from Allah, that his sunnah is wahi from Allah Azza wa Jal. So by necessity, he knows that everything outside of it is wrong, it is error, it is misdirected effort, and it is stupidity. He goes on to say, فَرْضَ لِنَفْسِكَ مَا رَضِيَ بِهِ الْقَوْمُ لِأَنفُسِهِمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ عَنْ عِلْمٍ وَقَفُوا وَبِبَصَرٍ نَافِذٍ كَفُوا وَلَهُمْ كَانُوا عَلَى كَشْفِ الْأُمُورِ أَقْوَى وَبِفَضْلٍ فِيهِ لَوْ كَانَ أَحَرَ فَإِنَّهُ هُمُ السَّابِقُونَ. So be pleased, be happy and pleased and content with what the people have been content with. Let it suffice you. Let the sunnah be sufficient for you. Again, no room for bid'ah here. He's not giving you any green light to come up with something quote unquote good. Stay your hands. Stay your hands. Be content with the sunnah. Don't go beyond it. And then he says, the people, i.e. the Sahaba, they out of knowledge have stopped at the edges of the sunnah. It is not out of ignorance, like some innovators imply in their doublespeak. It is out of knowledge that they have not went out of the bounds of the sunnah. And they've also, out of vision, stayed their hands. It's not out of being blind. No, they had vision. They had vision. And it is due to that vision that Allah Azza wa Jalla has granted them that they stayed their hands. Because at the end of the day, they were stronger when it comes to uncovering things. They were stronger, they were smarter, they were wiser. And had there been any value, any sort of value in uncovering things of ghaib without wahi, without the sunnah, without the Quran, they would have been the first. Because they are as-sabiqun. They're the first. They're the predecessors. They are the epitome of belief below the Prophet ﷺ when it comes to this ummah. They are the ideal generation. So if there was any goodness in uncovering the things that you're philosophizing about, the matters of ghaib that you don't even have access to, then they would have beat you to it. وَلَئِنْ كَانَ الْهُدَى مَا آمَنْتُمْ عَلَيْهِ لَقَدْ سَبَقْتُمُوهُمْ إِلَيْهِ. Here he gives us a very important thing to consider. He says, had the huda, the guidance, be that which you are believing, here he's addressing the people of innovation, then you would have beat the Sahaba to it. That's ridiculous, right? Imagine us beating the Sahaba to goodness, beating them to belief. A part of belief is knowing what to believe in. It is the most important part of believing. Knowing Allah, knowing the Quran, the messengers, all of this, knowing the Day of Judgment, knowing about it, all of this is what completes belief. So if you have information that they didn't, it means you've beat them to it. And that is impossible. وَلَئِن قُلْتَ حَدَثَ بَعْدَهُمْ حَدَث مَا أَحْدَثَهُ إِلَّا مَنْ تَبِعَ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِهِمْ وَرَغِبَ بِنَفْسِهِ عَنْهُ. And if you were to say, well, it's because something new happened. Meaning, let's say you don't directly blame the Sahaba, and when you say that you have the guidance that they didn't, but rather something new happened. That's why you're in a position where you know something that they don't, or you're upon something different from what they were upon. Know that the new thing that has occurred has not happened except by those who didn't want their path, who didn't want the path of the Sahaba, who didn't want the Sunnah to begin with. For example, those who started ruining Islam. The likes of Ja'd ibn Dirham, Jahab ibn Safwan. Islamic territory started to expand. A lot of the works of the philosophers started being translated into Arabic. We had a lot more interactions with communities of atheists, philosophers. And that is why, the innovator would say, that is why now we find ourselves with what we have today. It is important to note that these people, all of these people that you're mentioning, all of these extra Sunnah, extra Quran sources, they are those who don't want the Sunnah or anything like it to begin with. They're atheists. These people who make up these things, or who made these things rather, here specifically in this context, are atheists. Those who make up things in general, outside of Islam, It's because they did not find the sunnah sufficient. So you cannot say that there's something new. Sorry to take so long on this point, but I think one more example is important here. Mawlid, right? The people who celebrate Mawlid today, they'll tell you that, well, it is because the idea was not there at that time. If it were, then the Sahaba would have definitely done it because they're better than us, and they would have definitely celebrated the birthday of the Prophet ﷺ. The people who came up with this, had the sunnah been sufficient for them, they wouldn't have come up with it. They would not have taught people this if they found the sunnah to be enough. If they have limited themselves to the edges of Islam, to the sunnah, to the boundaries of the sunnah, then this thing wouldn't have even happened to begin with. So to continue here, let us continue to the next athar. I'm sorry again for taking so long. Omar Bin Abdul Aziz continues to say in the 11th line, وَلَقَدْ تَكَلَّمُوا فَمَا دُونَهُمْ مُقَصِّرْ وَمَا فَوْقَهُمْ مُجَسِّرْ. They have indeed spoken. The Sahaba, they have indeed spoken. So whoever is below the level that they have spoken at, then this kind of individual is like a dried up corpse. And whoever is above them is a transgressor. A good way to understand this is like a cup. The ideal being a full cup. The Sahaba are that full cup. Those who don't reach their level, and it's not just about actions here, because we will not reach the level of actions, but belief and the things that they believed in, and sharing their Aqeedah, their creed and opinions. If you're below them in that, if you don't reach to their level when it comes to these things, then you're like an insufficient cup. You have not filled the cup. It's not enough. And if you go beyond what they've spoken, meaning you speak out of bounds of what they've spoken about, you hold strange new opinions that they did not hold, then it's like an overflowing cup that spills everywhere. Both of these things are not desirable. And the 12th line, he says, لَقَدْ قَصَّرَ دُونَهُمْ أَقْوَامٌ فَجَفُوا وَطَمِحَ عَنْهُمْ آخَرُونَ فَغَلُوا. He says that communities or peoples have been below them, and so they have dried up, and there are others who have aspired above them, and so they have transgressed. We will look at examples of these, inshallah, with the coming athar, but there are many examples to this. وَإِنَّهُمْ مَعَ ذَلِكَ لَعَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. And they, the Sahaba, despite all of this, despite all of these types of and categories of people, they are the ones who are upon the straight path. So now again, he's giving us a hypothetical conversation with an innovator, or giving us a question that an innovator might pose. He says, فَلَئِنْ قُلْتَ فَأَيْنَ آيَةُ كَذَا وَكَذَا وَلِمَا قَالَ اللَّهُ كَذَا وَكَذَا لقد قرأوا منه ما قرأتم وعلموا من تأويله ما جهلتم ثم قالوا بعد ذلك كتاب بقدر. If you say, well, what about this verse? When people try to go with the Sunnah, they sometimes try to, use the Quran with their own interpretation. So if one says, or if you say, what about this verse then? Or why did Allah say this and that? Know that the Sahaba, they have read what you've read. The same Quran that you have with your hands right now is the same Quran that they had. The same Quran you're reading is the same Quran they've read. And yet they knew from it what you don't know. Meaning, they understood of it more than you understand. They know and understand of it that which you're ignorant about. You've not reached their level of intimacy and closeness and understanding of the Quran. And they did not say what you said. They said, Kitabun biqadar. Here he's responding specifically to the bid'ah of qadar. The Sahaba, ridwanullahi alayhim, who are better than you and know more than you, and have read the same Quran you're trying to argue using, they have said, Kitabun biqadar. Everything is with qadar, implying everything is with qadar, not just good things, like the innovators of the Qadariyya say. وَكَتَبَ إِلَى ابْنِهِ عَبْدُ الْمَلِكِ. And he has written to his son Abdul Malik, اتَّخِذِ الْحَقَّ إِمَامًا. Take the truth, take haqq as your leader. Within the circles of the students of knowledge, we find a lot of people not fully grasping this principle. Generally, you'll find people upon the Sunnah, alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. But then, when it comes to certain differences between madahib, no matter what evidence you show them, they'll say, no. Abu Hanifa has said this. Malik has said this. Al-Shafi'i, Ahmad bin Hanbal, or maybe even more alarming, people from our time. They'll say, Al-Albani said this. Even when you show them a hadith. No, Ibn Baz and Salih al-Fawzan, and they'll name to you scholars from our time to reject what the Prophet ﷺ is saying. It is very dangerous. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anh, he came across a people who were rejecting a sunnah from the Prophet ﷺ because of something that Abu Bakr or Umar radiallahu anhuma have said. Not all the ahadith have reached every single sahabi. So sometimes they might make a mistake. And so we need to be careful when it comes to these things. we need to be extra careful to put our allegiance first and foremost to Allah Azza wa Jal and the Messenger whom He has sent. This is our allegiance. We can love whomever we love from the righteous. We can take as Imams and as scholars whomever we love from the righteous people of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But whenever you find a hadith or a verse that goes against what you are upon, you say, we hear and obey. This is what it means to take the haqq as an imam, as a leader. He continues on to say, وَلَا تَكُنْ مِمَّنْ يَقْبَلُهُ إِذَا وَافَقَ هَوَاهُ وَيَدَعُهُ إِذَا خَالَفَ هَوَاهُ فَإِذَا أَنْتَ لَمْ تُؤْجَرْ فِيمَا قَبِلْتَ مِنْهُ وَلَمْ تَنْجُ مِنَ الْإِثْمِ فِيمَا دَفَعْتَ مِنْهُ إِذَا خَالَفَكَ. And do not be from those who accept, i.e. the haqq, accept it if it goes with what you want, with your hawa. And from amongst those who leave the haqq if it goes against your hawa, what you want, what you prefer. Because in this case, if you're like these two categories of people, then you will not get any reward from the sunnah that you accept, from the haqq that you accept, because you've accepted it simply because it goes with what you prefer. And you will not be free from blame, free from sayyi'at, from the haqq that you have rejected, if it goes against what you're upon, if it goes against what you're upon. What do we mean here? People, their sins can be overlooked if they're trying to get to the sunnah. Like in some fiqhi matters, they try their best to get to the evidence, and they go with the evidence, believing wholeheartedly that this evidence aligns with the sunnah, and that they are upon the sunnah, then Allah Azza wa Jal forgives them. However, if your reason for rejecting the haqq wasn't your approximation of the truth, or your investigation and query into the truth, but rather because you didn't prefer it, then you'll not be free from blame. Many women from amongst us believers do not cover their face and hands. May Allah guide them. Not because they want to be disobedient to Allah, but because they're currently following the madhab unknowingly of Al-Albani, may Allah have mercy on him, who stated that covering the hands and face is not necessary. They wear very wide clothing, mashallah. Their clothing is very, very modest. Unfortunately, however, they do not cover their hands and face. And this is a sin, because many people have narrated ijma' on the obligation of covering the hands and face in front of strange men for women. So these people, they might be free from sin, inshallah, because they are approximating the truth to the best of their knowledge. But a woman who is presented the evidence, and she says, well, it's a matter that is, disagreed upon, and Al-Albani said this, even when he showed them a hadith. Al-Albani said this, Fulan said that. Then in this instance, they would not be free from blame and sin on the Day of Judgment. May Allah forgive us all. 17, he says, وَلْيَكُنْ عِلْمُكَ عِلْمُ اللَّهِ الَّذِي أَنزَلَهُ عَلَى نَبِيِّهِ ودل فيه على محابه ومكاره وعرف الناس فيه أمره ودعاهم إلى كتابه وهداهم إلى كرامته ووقاهم به بأسه وأوجب لهم به رضوانه وأنزلهم به أفضل منازل خلقه عز وجل. He continues on to say, and let your knowledge be the following. He's going to give us a list. Let your knowledge be this kind of knowledge. Number one, the knowledge that Allah Azza wa Jal has sent upon His Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, the Quran and the Sunnah. So let that be your knowledge. If you want to be knowledgeable, then let your knowledge be that which Allah Azza wa Jal has sent down to His Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Number two, and He has through it taught people what He loves and what He hates. So your knowledge should, number one, be that which was revealed, and it also should be that which has taught the people and led them towards what Allah loves and what He hates, so that they know what He loves and do it, and know what He hates and avoid it. Number three, and that which He has taught the people through it, what His orders are, that which He has taught the people, and He has invited to His book, and He has guided them through it to His glorification. So all of these things is what should be your knowledge. And he continues on to say, through it, He has protected them from His punishment. Let that be your knowledge. And through it, He has made obligatory for the Sahaba His pleasure. And through it, He has granted them the highest of ranks within His creation. Let that be your knowledge. He continues on to say, هو العلم الذي لم يجهل من علمه ولم يعلم من جهله. It is the knowledge that he who knows it is not ignorant. Doesn't matter what degrees you lack. It doesn't matter if you don't know how to even count. If you know the sunnah, then you can never be an ignorant person. And he who does not know it can never be considered knowledgeable. He who knows it could never be considered knowledgeable. It doesn't matter what degrees a person has, what experience he has. Not knowing the Sunnah makes someone an ignorant individual. Unfortunately, we find in our societies that the people do not uphold this. In Muslim communities, a PhD holder is more respected than he who knows the tafsir of the Quran. Unfortunately. A parent would rather their child be a PhD holder rather than them being hafiz of the Quran. And may Allah protect us. فآثره على سواه وانتهي عند زواجره فإن ذلك يحق على من علمه واتبع طاعة الله فيما أوصى به. So put it above all that is other than it. Put it above the Sunnah, the knowledge of the Sunnah. Place it above all other types of knowledge. And end at its boundaries. Don't go further, because that is obligated upon those who know it, the knowledge of the Sunnah, and those who seek to obey Allah Azza wa Jal in that which He has obligated. He continues on to say, هو نور الله الذي أنزل وهدى به أولياءه. It is the light of Allah. This knowledge is the light of Allah that He has sent down and guided through it His awliya, those who are beloved to Him. ومن لم يكن له حظ فيه لم ينتفع بشيء منه وكان في ظلمة ما بقي في دنياه. And he who does not have a portion of it, then they will not be able to make use of it, and they remain in darkness for the rest of their life. Now, I think it is important, now that we have finished the section that speaks about the Aqeedah of Omar Bin Abdul Aziz, I'd like to remind everyone that this isn't just some random person. Omar Bin Abdul Aziz, he's quoted by Malik. When people want to speak about the Sunnah or Bid'ah, they use him as an example for being strict when it comes to adherence to the Sunnah and being rightly strict when it comes to avoiding Bid'ah. He is one of the great A'immah of our deen, and we should not be considering him lightly. In fact, none of the 25 individuals that would be mentioned here are people that anyone from our generation can talk back to, except if other people from the Salaf agree with what we're saying. Right. جزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.